Take a look at our top story this hour. Over the last 1 week, millions of Russians have been voting to reform their constitution, a move that will now cement Russian President Vladimir Putin's rule until 2036. Russians across the country are voting on a total of 206 reforms. The constitutional changes include a ban on same-sex marriage and an affirmation of Russians' faith in God. But the most important one is meant to extend Putin's rule. In his final pitch for the July 1st vote, Putin said that the changes in the constitution will reflect core Russian values. What he did not mention was that it will also reset his term limits.
Мы голосуем за страну, ради которой работаем, и хотим передать нашим детям и внукам. Потому уверен, каждый из вас, принимая столь важное решение, думает прежде всего о своих близких, опирается на ценности, которые нас объединяют. А это правда и справедливость. Это уважение к человеку труда, к людям старших поколений.
Putin's political future has always been a subject of intense speculation. Currently, the Russian constitution permits a limit of 2 consecutive presidential terms of 6 years each. Putin was elected president in 2000. In 2012, when he completed his second term, Putin allowed his then Prime Minister, Dmitry Medvedev, to serve 1 presidential term before returning to power. The new constitution includes articles promoting a patriotic education and a ban on same-sex marriage. The other articles include social reforms like minimum wage guarantees. All of these have been repeatedly endorsed by the Kremlin, but the reform which allows Putin to run again has barely been mentioned. Russia's parliament has already approved this change, but that wasn't enough for Putin. He has called for a national vote to further legitimize this change. But the catch here is that people will vote for all of the 206 reforms as a package with a simple yes or no. Now, if they disagree with any one reform, they cannot express their dissent. Many local governments also enticed voters with raffles and cash prizes to increase the turnout. Most experts believe that the vote is a complete hogwash and another way to strengthen Putin's legitimacy. But others say that this vote is a sign that Putin is insecure about his position. Putin's approval ratings have suffered in recent months over the government's handling of the pandemic. Now, opponents have strongly opposed these new reforms. Many leaders even claim that Putin is maintaining his presidency amounts to a constitutional coup. Chief opposition campaigner Alexei Navalny has called for a boycott of this vote. The result of this vote is a foregone conclusion for the Kremlin. Copies of this amended constitution are already being sold in many Moscow bookstores. Now, our correspondent Lucy Taylor is joining us live from Moscow for more on this. Good afternoon to you, Lucy. Russia's parliament has really already approved these constitutional changes. Why has Putin called for a national vote on this? What further legitimacy does he gain?
Yes, Vladimir Putin's been very clear from the beginning that he wanted the country to vote on this election. He said it was important to him that it has the buy-in of the people. But of course, the opposition here say that the election isn't free and fair, that it isn't an opportunity for the public to approve it because of the way that this election has been carried out. So the first thing that they complain about is the fact that this amendment to extend Vladimir Putin's time in office and give him criminal immunity for life is one of just hundreds of amendments all bundled into one package. And the question on the ballot paper is a single question, yes or no, to answer all of that. And that's given the campaign the opportunity to focus on other issues, outlawing gay marriage, for example, guaranteeing a minimum wage, issues that people may see as being in their own interest, such as index-linking pensions. So the campaign is very much focused on that, and as you heard, Vladimir Putin has focused on this as an issue of Russian values. He's urged people to think of their children and grandchildren, their respect for their homeland, the Russian values of truth and justice. So opposition leaders say that this has been a way to take the focus away from Vladimir Putin extending his time in office. They call this a power grab, but he says it's a way to get the buy-in of the people to make him eligible for standing for more terms in office.
Right, and most experts believe that this vote is hogwash. It's just another way to strengthen Putin's legitimacy and his term in office. Others saying that this could be a sign that Putin is actually insecure about his position.
Yes, well, Vladimir Putin's approval ratings have fallen this year during the pandemic, but his approval is still very high compared to other leaders around the world. And we've spoken to voters in polling stations here who do support him, saying that he's the best president of all presidents, for example, or that the country is flourishing under his rules. So certainly he does have a certain amount of approval, particularly in more remote or rural regions. But his approval ratings have fallen, and there was a big question mark over what would happen once this term in office ended, because this was supposed to be his last term in office under the previous or current constitutional rules. It's not clear yet. He hasn't said yet whether he will stand for more terms in office, even if this amendment is passed and he is allowed to. This would give him the opportunity to stand twice more, to taking him to 2036, when he'll be 84. But he hasn't said if he will do. But one thing that political scientists and analysts have been saying is that what it does do is put to bed the question of his successor. So whereas over the last year there's been a lot of discussion, perhaps even wrangling behind the scenes about who would be the one to take over the presidency for Vladimir Putin or how that succession would happen, now he has the opportunity to stand for many more years. That question has been put to bed for now, and that gives an air of stability not just to him as leader, but to the political system, because it is a system that he's built around himself over the last 2 decades, and it's difficult to see where Russia will go forward without him, even though that's something that many opposition leaders, for example, may want to see.
Absolutely, Lucy. Thank you very much for that report. That's Lucy Taylor coming to us live from Moscow for the latest.